top of the Four Seasons Hotel in New York, just me and Michael and security and the kids and Grace, and none of it was the same. Michael Prince was there when Michael begged me to, I'm an airline pilot now, and was begging me to quit the airlines. And we were in a casino on the phone, and phone conversation lasted 20 minutes. The thing is it just was at a stage where the sessions in Vegas, it wasn't quite the same. We weren't even in a studio, you know? It's like there wasn't an album deal. And that doesn't mean he can't get an album deal. Look at the stuff he had lined up in London. You know what I'm saying? He can do anything he wants. But at that point in time, he didn't want to tour. He was always saying, I don't want to tour. And it's like, you know, so I didn't, you know. And I'd been touring with him. I've been with him since '89. And there wasn't a single gig. I got in his band in '92, became the band leader in '93, and there wasn't a single gig he ever did live, except for the last rehearsals, but not a single gig he ever did without me from that time. And it's like between that and touring with Stevie Wonder for 6 years before that, I've toured enough. You know, it's great. I've been everywhere in the world, and I hate to travel. I've never gone anywhere.
So you're a pilot.
Yeah, now I'm a pilot going all these places. That's why the hair is short. Yeah.
Just don't learn.
So. Yeah, but that's, you know, it's funny because like when you talk about Australia, right? With Stevie, we play every city in Australia: Cairns, Rockhampton, Mackay, all the stuff up northern Queensland and Perth, and with Michael, you only play the big cities, right?
Yeah.
And so like Japan, it was only Tokyo and Osaka. Where with Stevie, it was Fukuoka and Yokohama and Hiroshima and everything in the islands. So it was a different thing. You know?
Can you talk? Well, just one thing. So you talked about the gig. Can
Yeah.
you talk about that show that was canceled in '95 at the Vibberts? Like, well, how was that going to be different?
We had done a bunch of one-offs, and that's when I first hired you, right? Yeah. And would you say something? Why are you being so damn quiet?
You're doing so well.
Oh, Michael.
I can't get a word in edgewise.
So I love this guy. He's my brother. So
That was going to be with the mime guy. Remember him?
that was Jeff Marcos, right? Yeah. And we had already done. First of all, I told you that the one-offs are extremely complicated and expensive because you're doing a single gig. Like for MTV, you're playing live for 60 million people and doing a horrendous. And Brian, you were. Where's Brian?
Yes.
Yeah, you
Yeah,
were.
both of us were on the side of the stage. With
Yeah. Remember we had all those DAT
all the
players
DAT players
in New York.
Yes.
All the instant start DAT players back
Yes.
then. You know, this is pure.
I remember that.
There was no band on stage. It's just Michael and it's me doing all these. You know, I know how Michael moves exactly, and that's how we work together in all these different ways. So like, you know, Michael would move a certain way, and I'd start another DAT player, right? And another piece of the song would play, and it was very candid. That was what it was supposed to be. It wasn't supposed to be a band on stage. It was supposed to be Michael with this seemingly track that moves to him, you know. So, and it worked, and it was really cool. Well, that's called a one-off, right? And it went flawlessly. And Benny, was it Benny Collins back then? He was scared to death. He was our production manager, and I'm out there on stage, cool as a cucumber, because for some reason I don't get nervous. And Benny goes, "You seem awfully cool," and I go, "Well, yeah." He goes, "I'm freaking out." Because the thing is, you can't make any mistakes. It's not like 40,000 people, it's 60 million people. And this is all, even though the music's, even though Michael's, you know, it's just Michael, there's no band, it's a track, it's a real performance, what we had to do. And we had, not only did we have these things called Instant Start Dance, which were before Pro Tools, and it was a way that I could make a drum beat start at right as Michael moved. You can't do that with normal tape recorders, right? You can do it with Pro Tools, but even then there's a lag. So these Instant Start DATs are just $10,000 things that play these little tapes, digital tapes. And we had a rack of them.
We had every single one of them in New York City because we had 13 cues
and
times two to have a safety.
Yeah,
that's
for safety.
26
of
these really expensive machines.
And
I've never used one of those.
Oh yeah, you cue it up and then it's just like ready to go. And then as soon as you touch it, it's like
because the first 2 seconds are in RAM.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it's for video production. It's not for a studio.
What was it for, Brian? I mean, what would you use? We needed it.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it was for live, like a live show
Yeah.
video production that
Okay.
we.
I've never messed with them.
Yeah.
Yeah. At any rate, they were kind of a, you know, one-hit wonder. In other words, you would never need them anymore these days. Yeah. So, so we're doing these one-offs, right? And there's MTV one-off. There's these other one-offs. All this is going in the fall. And the Jeff Margolis thing, One Night Only, was the last thing. And Michael was just fried by that point in time. And he, you know, he physically got sick, you know, so we didn't do it. And we, you know, Jeff Margolis was the guy who was putting this on, and he's a, what would you call him, a producer? Like, yeah.
Of the show.
Yes, does these TV shows. Really nice man, right? And I got to be pretty close with him, and he was really scared that this thing wasn't going to come off because Michael was out of energy at that point, right? And he was trying, but it just, you know, and then on one of the, it was a week before we were supposed to do it, he collapsed on stage. I think we were doing Black or White or something, I'm not sure. Yeah. So that's what happened with the Beacon. Yeah.
I have a funny story about those dads. I was in charge of bringing the dads from Sony Studios
I
to
remember,
Radio City
yeah.
Music Hall. So yeah, no pressure exactly. And I walked over. So underneath my jacket, I had like all these tapes. So I get to the Radio City Music Hall where the MTV Video Music Awards are going. Limousines are showing up, and there's a huge crowd outside, and the police, everything stops. And I get to the corner, and the police wouldn't let me go across the street to enter the Radio City Music Hall. I'm like, okay.
I'm really important.
Yeah, like, so I'm trying to explain to the policeman that, I'm part of the show, and I'm on the list, which is across the street, because he was wondering, like, where's your badge, where's your information, to get in. I was like, well, it's across the street. But they wouldn't let me across the street to get the badge. So finally, I just had to tell the policeman, okay, look, I'm working with Michael, and we're starting the show, we're the first act on the show, and I have to get in there, I have all the tapes. You can escort me across, the street, and if my name isn't at the table, then you can send me back. But I'm telling you, I have to get in there, and I said, if I don't get to the show, it's your fault. And the policeman was like, okay, I'll bring you over.
Do you remember also what those tapes were? You were, remember in the studio after we do the production on those tapes? Because we made those tracks. We didn't take them off the record. We were putting these tracks together. They were very special performance-oriented tracks. And then you would have to stay extra to review them all, right?
Yeah, because we would change edits.
Right, but I
Michael
mean,
would
after
change it and,
after they were all done, and we worked the whole day with you doing them, then you had to
make
go
sure
through. I
that
remember
they
that.
all played
Yeah, they all played
correctly and
correctly.
no
Yeah.
errors or anything. Yeah.
Yeah, that was an unbelievably time-intensive gig, but it came off.
Yeah, it
It
did.
came off. Nothing went wrong. You know, I do remember something that did go wrong.
Something always
So
goes wrong.
he wanted it completely dry, and so you have canned applause, and Michael made it so there was no canned applause, so it was too dry, and I remember that. So things aren't always perfect.